Tuesday night, 8 Eastern.
A terrifying threat on the high seas. Very little is clear about what really happened in the Strait of Hormuz this week. You can see it here along the Iranian coast. The U.S. Navy said from the beginning that they couldn't be sure if these ominous threats actually came from Iranian boats buzzing 3 U.S. warships. What is clear, however, is how dangerous any military confrontation would be in these waters, a choke point for much of the world's supply of oil. To help me explain, Joe Cirincione, Senior Vice President for National Security at the Center for American Progress, and here in our studio, our Pentagon correspondent, Barbara Starr. Let me start with you, Barbara. How serious was this?
This came within seconds, Tom, of being an all-out shooting war between the U.S. Navy and these 5 Iranian speedboats, attack boats, if you will, that buzzed them. One of the ships, the USS Hopper, the captain was in the process of giving the shoot-kill order when the Iranian boats finally at the last second turned away.
As long as these little boats were far away, it would have been no contest. The armaments on these ships would have utterly shredded them.
Well, these boats could have been made to disappear off the face of the seas very, very quickly. The issue is whether or not they would have gotten so close that within seconds they could have rammed the Navy, they could have fired some type of weapons at them before the Navy could have responded. So there's always that envelope of security where you cannot let a potential threat get too close to you.
Joseph, the Iranians say this kind of thing happens all the time. Our ships come near each other. It's no big deal.
Well, we have a tale of 2 tapes here. On Monday, we got the U.S. version, a carefully edited 4-minute segment that seemed to show a very serious threat, particularly because of that voiceover, what seemed to be a bad Arnold Schwarzenegger imitation. We now know, later in the week, that this actually was not assuredly from a Revolutionary Guard boat. In fact, there's no ambient noise. No,
but then we got the Iranian version also, which showed them doing nothing, basically.
We got a 5-minute version that stressed their point of view, a calm exchange between the naval vessels. I think the truth lies somewhere in between. Clearly, that was not a commonplace occurrence to bring those, however small, patrol boats so close to the warships, but it wasn't at all clear that that threat was real, that might have been some prankster who made that comment over any of the radios from anywhere in the area. The U.S. Navy then sliced that into the tape. We have to take a step back and make sure we don't hyper-inflate these threats to prevent a shooting war that nobody really wants.
But we know that the stakes are huge here. Look at this. This is the fact file in the Strait of Hormuz. It's only 34 miles wide in some areas. 40% of global oil passes through this area, and that percentage is increasing. Barbara, patrols in this area, because of Afghanistan, because of Iraq, and because of this oil supply, must be very serious business all the time.
This is very tense business. You'll remember early 2007, up in the northern part of the Gulf, those British Marines and got themselves snatched by the Iranians and were held in Iran for several days before they were released. This is something that the U.S. Navy remembers every minute. The U.S. Navy is not about to let its sailors get captured by Iran. Now, the issue for the U.S. Navy is really not so much this voice. They have readily admitted, perhaps late in the game, but readily admitted they're not really sure where that voice came from. They say their view is 5 boats coming at them, plus objects being dropped in the water, that this was
question whether it was some kind of explosive or something we never found out. But Joseph, why is this being done then? Is this provocation by Iran for some political purpose, or is this propaganda from our own government for some political purpose?
Probably a little bit of both. I mean, we're very close to Iranian territorial waters here, so the margin of error is very small. The Revolutionary Guard commander could have taken it on his own initiative to buzz these boats.
What does Iran get out of it if they provoke something like this?
To show that they're standing up to the United States, that they can't be pushed around. The key here is to make sure that nothing like this escalates into a conflict that neither side really wants. We should be negotiating with the Iranians the kind of incidents at sea arrangement we had with the Soviets even during the height of the Cold War. Channels of communication that can make sure that there's no miscommunication here, like the British had with the Iranians, that allowed them to diffuse that hostage situation.
There seems to be some kind of back channel communications going on, though, right now, aren't there?
Some, but not consistent enough. In fact, the U.S. Navy commander was complaining that he didn't have the ability to talk directly with the Iranians. It's something we should give our commanders in the field.
And when you look at the Pentagon folks, Barbara, when they look at an incident like this, they have to be ready not just for the first step, which is shooting these boats if they have to, but the next step. And what would that be?
That is the problem, which is once it escalates, once people start shooting at each other, where does it stop? That is fundamentally the problem that Defense Secretary Robert Gates has seen and has already privately told his commanders, be very careful. Don't get near Iranian waters. Don't get near Iranian airspace. Don't let yourself get caught into being provoked into something we don't want to do.
In part because of what the Iranians themselves have. They can run 140 patrol boats with anti-ship missiles, land-based seersucker missiles, diesel submarines, mine-laying boats. They could certainly make a mess out of it pretty fast. Joseph, thanks for being here. Barbara as well. Nice insights into the whole thing. Barbara, if you'll just stick around for a couple of minutes, we'll hold on to you for our flash brief coming up shortly. Our version of Around the World in just